Hey everyone, my name is Rosemary Smith. I typically go by Rose, and today I'm starting a YouTube channel just to document my journey as a real estate investor. Whenever I first started getting started in real estate, I just started to consume information from everywhere. I subscribed to various YouTube channels, podcasts, Facebook, Instagram pages. I even went as far as to follow some folks on LinkedIn. And the Facebook algorithms are so good that I'll never forget whenever you're at your lowest, whenever you wish you could figure out how to achieve financial freedom through real estate, there's always a sales guy. Always a sales guy who gets in touch with you, who tries to sell you on a mentorship. I was one of those people. I was one of those people who bought into quite a few different mentorships. And mentorships aren't cheap. See, they're $10,000, $20,000 mentorships. On the high end, you even have mentorships that are $50,000, $100,000 per year to join. I joined these mentorships and I would start to see a pattern. These gurus spend a lot of time talking about the successes and the things that really went really well, and the new partnerships, and the new houses, and the new businesses they just purchased. But they didn't talk a whole lot about the mistakes they made. They didn't talk about the deals that went sideways whenever something went over budget, whenever they had people go AWOL on them, whenever things slipped through the cracks that shouldn't have. I guess I understand, because in a way they feel that they would lose credibility. But at the end of the day, I'd rather learn through someone else's mistakes than repeat them on my own. So I think that's the purpose of this page. That's the premise of this YouTube channel, is to just give you the raw, unfiltered content so that perhaps you'd be able to glean what works great and then what are some things to avoid in the future. I want to open up with a quick story and then I'll tell you a little bit more about me. I was watching a replay of a mastermind from a public speaker. His name is Vin. He was on stage for this event. And he was talking to an audience of maybe a couple hundred, 1,000 people. And he presents a challenge to everyone in the audience. And he tells everyone, I want you to stand. I want you to pair up in groups of 2 or 3 and then face each other and remember what the other person is wearing. Top to bottom, what does their appearance look like? Now, turn your backs on one another and change 33 things about your appearance. Ready, go. Most people didn't do anything. Some people even laughed and looked at Vin, and then Vin called it off and said, okay, let's change this. I want you to turn your back on your partner, and I want you to change one thing about your appearance in the next 10 seconds. As the camera spans the room, you see that people without hesitation could come up with one change. Some people put their necklace inside their shirts, or maybe they undid the top button. And then Vin prompts them to face inboard, identify what the change is. Of course, some people could figure it out, some people can't. And then Vin has them do it again. This time, as the camera is spanning, you see some people might have been turning their watch the opposite direction, or they put their hair behind the ear. Then Vin prompts them to face inboard, identify the change, and does it one more time. It's the same result. Someone may switch which ear their hair is behind now, or maybe they undo one of their shoelaces and then face their partner. What Vin said next really caught my attention because it hit home. It was very closely related to real estate, or really anything you do. He says, do you realize what just happened? I told you to change 33 things about your appearance and you did nothing. But I told you to change one thing and then change one more thing and one more thing, and you did that without hesitation. We could stand up here and we could do this 30 more times, and I guarantee you would have found 33 things to change. Whenever I join these mentorships, I join these programs because I see the CEO or the visionary already has great success. They're at the top of the mountain. They already own 500 properties, a couple businesses, and they have partnerships left and right. I see they're at the summit, but I don't know what trail they took to get there. I don't see the route. I don't see the exact steps that they took at the bottom. So it seems completely unattainable right now. Sometimes in life, we need to go ahead and take step 1 before we could take step 2. You can't see step 2 from step 0, and we definitely don't see how to get to step 50 like some of our mentors already have. So with that being said, my name is Rose. A little bit about myself. I have been, my 9 to 5 is still the military. I joined the Marine Corps in March of 2014. So I'll actually hit my 12-year mark of March in 2026. I started to dabble in real estate on the side. I've only done a couple deals. I don't have hundreds of doors or anything crazy. But I bought my first house whenever I was stationed in Quantico, Virginia. I used my VA loan. I didn't hire a real estate agent, but that was my first property. My second property was a house that I purchased after PCSing. And this is how I became an accidental Airbnb owner. I struggled to find some roommates, so I put that house on the market. And that house today cash flows between $1,000 to $1,500 per month after utilities are paid. I think that was my turning point. Whenever I realized I would love to rinse and repeat that process. So I started dabble in other things in real estate. I tried wholesaling, where I would make phone calls all evening once I got off work. I'd get rejected 50 times, and then the next day I would come home and I'd do the same thing. I never got a contract. So then I decided wholesaling was a waste of my time, at least in this area, because no one just wants to give away their property. So I started to learn creative finance, so I could figure out how to adjust the needs of people while figuring a way to make it profitable for myself. And within 2 months, I had gained my first seller finance deal. There was a friend of mine who actually owned a house free and clear in the mountains, had about 20 acres of land on it, but he never went to that house. And then I also knew a family that was expecting their first child who wanted to move somewhere remote and isolated. So by matchmaking these two people, I did make $10,000 through a seller finance wholesale agreement. I also had another friend of mine. He owned a house. He purchased it about a year or two ago, so it had very little equity in it. If he would have sold that house on market with a real estate agent, after paying out the agent commissions and the closing costs, he would have actually had to bring money to the table. Then I found another family that desperately wanted to become homeowners, but they didn't qualify with their current credit at the time. But there's a family who desperately wanted to become homeowners. And they didn't have the credit to qualify for a traditional home mortgage at this time. So by matchmaking these two people, I also made money off of the option fee. Back to the Airbnb piece, I was so happy that I'm starting to make money through these other deals, and I have consistent cash flow from this house that I wanted to rinse and repeat this process. Within 8 months of my first Airbnb, I obtained my second Airbnb, and this one could cash flow about $2,000 a month during our busy months, especially during the summer. Whenever I lay out what I've done so far, to the untrained eye, it seems like a lot. It seems like you have several transactions under your belt. But for someone who's already been in this industry, these are baby steps. These were the initial 1, 2, and 3 steps towards step 50 of that guru that I want to be like one day. Sometimes our best mentors in life are the people who are close enough to the mistakes who could remember what it's like to be this overwhelmed and confused. It's even better, or sometimes it's even better, to have the mentor who's that far ahead, but they need to be able to bring it back down to where you are. So in this YouTube channel, again, I just hope to be transparent with everyone. I'm going to go over some deals that I've done, and I'll break those out into multiple videos. I'll talk about things that didn't work out. We'll talk about how some phone calls go, and maybe even make some live while on the call. You know, the goal is for you to see the real thing, to see the progression, and not just the polished end product. So if anything I said today resonates with you, then I'd really appreciate if you took the time to subscribe to my channel. Again, my hope is that I could demystify something in real estate for you to shorten your learning curve, or even introduce you to someone who already does what you aspire to do. Real estate could be very broad. I don't know anything about buying hotels, but I know plenty of people who own them. I don't know anything about assisted living properties, but I know plenty of people that that's their business model. Maybe you're someone who wants to be a little bit more hands-off, and you want to get into real estate, but you don't want to get your hands dirty. Right now, I could think of quite a few people who could give you decent returns on your money, or people who could help you become owners in properties and then offload that management to someone else. So thank you for taking the time to watch my video today. Next week, I'll be talking more about these Airbnbs, and I will probably unpack Airbnb videos over the next couple weeks. Till next week.